Okay, my outstanding friends, this is going to be fun. This goes back 10 years ago. I wrote to David Attenborough. Now, I just got this from a friend of mine, Jason Lashka, and he said David Attenborough is showing these figures here. So I come up to David Attenborough's page, and here's what he's posting. And I'm going to read to you about these Trovants. But I posted, and my post has been removed. I believe. Well, let's go with removed. All right, let's just go with removed. And I have a post pending that they won't allow to go up there. Now, I wrote to David Attenborough, and he wrote back. So let's get started, and let's see what I have to say, and what he had to say, and what we all have to say now. You know, they didn't remove it. It's still there. And this is what he's showing up here, I believe, is all these little tendon walls, only they're not little in his. They are in biology now. So we're going to go over the biology, but he did leave it up here. I'm kind of surprised. Now, they're all never too old to learn something new every day. Here's the problem. Unfortunately for David Attenborough, he didn't listen to me. I'll read you what he had to say, what I wrote to him and what he had to say back. He's lived his whole life looking for things, and he's just never understood what he was looking at. That's just unfortunate. 10 years ago, this was back from August of 2024, of 2014. It's 2024 now, so it's 10 years ago. Okay, he did leave it up there. And I'm not doing this to be mean or anything. David Attenborough seems like a hell of a nice guy. He wrote back to me. I was thrilled. 10 years ago, he wrote back, he actually wrote me a letter. I'll read you the letter in a second. But here's the problem. He's led his whole life looking for ancient things, as I will tell you in his letter. He allows this to be posted on his page. They call these Trovants. Now here's the explanation. It says, these enigmatic stones, known as Trovants in Romania, grow, move, and even reproduce. They take in the minerals from the rain after each heavy downpour, which combine with the chemicals already existing in the rock to produce a reaction and pressure within that eventually causes the stone to grow and reproduce. All right, they think they're growing out of these big rocks and making little rocks, reproducing. I'm going to show you anatomically exactly what that is, because that's biology. And I'll show it to you right now. Now, I have a whole batch. Let me just show you something right here. All of these pictures are going to have to be looked at to understand these Trovants. And why would I have to look at this to understand these Trovants? Well, that's why we have to look at it. But before we go there, this was 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago. I wrote to David Attenborough. He wrote back. This is from August 2014. 2014. Now, he says, Dear Roger Spur, thank you for your note. I am somewhat surprised by it. I have never made a video on mud fossils. Indeed, I know nothing of the subject. My interest is not in recent entombment, but fossils that were many millions of years old. All right, so, and sincerely, David Attenborough. Very nice, absolutely fabulous to do that. I was shocked. But he didn't understand what I was saying to him. I was saying to him that things are not what we consider. These ancient things are not as ancient as we considered. They were from the Great Flood, and I confused him, I'm sure, because I'm hoping that he will look at what I'm presenting, because I am going to tell you precisely what these are. And that, my friends, is biology. And anybody can confront me and discuss it with me. I have evidence, I have everything to support my side of it. So anybody, I mean anybody, wants to talk to me about this, why I am making these claims, I am more than willing to engage. I'd like to have some expert who has made their own claims, like I'm just showing you David Attenborough. Nice guy. I'm not doing this for any other reason other than to just have it understood. That's all. Okay, first of all, they're not just in Romania. They are everywhere. Now let me show you something. You see that? You say, well, how could that possibly happen? These things growing? I saw another one about these balls in the walls over in, I believe it was China. It might have been Japan, and they say they grow from the walls. No, the wall erodes in and the balls become visible, that's all. It's the same thing on the ocean. These balls and everything are just all over the place. And they erode down and create these balls in the water. I'll show you the ones from Huntington Beach. Absolutely amazing. But you see this. Now look at this. What did that? Explain that one to me. I know what did it. I can tell you exactly what did it. And all those balls are there as anchors. Those are anchors. You say, well, anchor from what? Well, what are you talking about, Roger? I said they're anchors. And the reason this little stalk is here, because that ball connected to another ball that's underneath there, I'm sure. Or it could be, well, let me just show you something. This connects a bone to another bone. All right? You see that right there? This is a bone. That's the head of a bone. And that connected to another bone, like a wrist bone. You see this? It was basically something like this. Well, what locks this bone to that bone? Why would that be stuck there? Why is that going to happen? Because it's stuck on top of one of these things that's inside one of those cavities. That's called a ligament. It pops right on there. The stalk comes through to the other one. And there's going to be another one down here, or it's going to be attached to a bone or something. But that locks into these cavities. You should be able to see that. That's all that is. That is a ligament. And can I show you that anatomically? Yes. It's right there. There's a ligament. Right there. And this is what they do. They make a ball. They're balls of, they're balls of balls. There's a ball loaded with a batch of balls. And that is exactly what we saw on David Attenborough's page. It's right here. These balls locked in with a whole bunch of other balls. Now, can I show evidence of a lot of things about this? Yes, absolutely I can. This is what a tendon is. All right? They have a strap that comes down and locks into a ball. The ball is the anchor. It's called the enthesis. All right? It's the end, and it locks it in. Now, there's abrupt transitions that come down here. And there's a couple of little, the blood vessels, basically, that come into here, and straps. There's all kinds of straps. There's a lot of anatomical stuff coming out of this tube here. Not a lot, but there's fibers and, well, here, look. Here's what they do. Here's how they grow. They start to grow. And all these little balls start collecting in there. For some reason, I don't know why. They're cells. All right. Now, the cells start to propagate in here, and then they start to express themselves as to what kind of cell they're going to become. Are they going to be, well, you see. In the center, they crystallize in a lot of cases. All right. But they mineralize depending upon what they're going to have to do. What job are you going to have to do? What kind of a tendon are you going to be? They mineralize, and they take on certain minerals, and then these things differentiate. You see how they're just all the same here? Then they start to differentiate here and over there, and then they start to change a lot, and they start to group into groups, and then this mineralization clusters in the center, and now you got a whole batch of different chemistry, and you got a final product. Now don't forget, mud fossils literally changes everything. It changes our history, it changes geology, it changes possible beliefs and what our ancient past was, anthropology, anatomy, everything. Now, the stuff I show you will be mud fossils, and they are mud fossils, and this was a mud fossil. It's just a bone, and this bone transitioned into mud. They call it mudstone. Well, it's a stone, a mudstone bone. And I showed you, I believe, how the ligament attaches. Now, this is a different type of tendon enthesis. You see the ball down here? And you see this strap coming up like this? There's another one here, and it goes through this little cut. It's a cut in the tendon. It's supposed to be there, and this one has one too. Now, this is a sports injury. What happened is it tore so tight against where this ball was supposed to be embedded and locked. It's supposed to be locked into that hole. It ripped out from too much force. It can move. You see how it can slide, but only a certain distance. It's not, these straps can't go forever. And when they hit the end of the tension on the strap, you're at the end. You can't go much further than that, or you're going to rip the tendon, or rip, in this case, the ball was ripped from its substrate, which is what holds the tendon in place. Now, this is a ponerosis tendon, flat sheets, and they're elastic, but they have to anchor. Every tendon anchors. There's no tendon that does not anchor. Okay, I got a little interrupted, but I know at some point I showed you this, and I told you this is a ponerosis tendon versus rope tendon, and this is the strap and the ball would have anchored here, and up to a certain point on that ball, and I can prove every word I'm saying in a second now. So this is what a ponerosis is. Now, this is what the difference is between the rope style and the thin sheets, which is the ponerosis, versus the regular rope tendon. They say it's delicate, allows the body to stretch and move and all that stuff. Less common to get injuries there. Rope style snaps and so forth, but they are tough, and tougher than tough. Now, this is what it looks like on your body. Rope style ones go between your muscles and your bones, basically. They turn into a rope, and then the muscle blossoms out of the rope. All right. This is a ponerosis right here, like on your belly here, and those balls lock in to the substrate underneath. The same thing in your back and so forth, and that gives you structure and stability. Now, can I show these in giant creatures? Yes, absolutely I can. Now, this is shocking as hell, and it is insanely crazy. Don't point to me that I'm crazy, because if it is true, it's true. That's all there is to it. Now, don't forget, this is going to be up to, say, about this high on that ball, locked into here, and that's why it ripped out. It was not like totally inside the ball. This is the ponerosis tendon, and so is this. That's Arches National Park. It's a tendon. That is an ponerosis tendon. The substrate was up to here. Remember how the ball pulled out? Well, this one's not pulled out. This is stuck in. Now, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, right down the line, as I showed you here. There's a line of them. It's not just one here and there. See them? Boop, 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 right down that line. The stalks come out. They come over to the tendon. That allows the tendon to go this way and that way. That gives you, that flexibility in your gut and your back and so forth to stretch. and they call them delicate. They're not delicate. Trust me, these things are tough. But this is where they're located in your body, is where they're anchored. Now, let's go a little further with this. Is there any other evidence that this is what I'm saying it is? Well, yes, there is. All right, let's dive in deep. Don't forget, this is what the substrate of the guy's body would have been, where that anchored in to the body tissue, and then the strap comes over the top. There's layers and layers and layers of tissue, and this is the top-ish layer that gives you the structural stability, and that locks down into another layer of tissue, and that layer has eroded for some reason. But these are tough. These are much, much tougher. The balls specifically. And here's another one right here. There's another ball right here. The strap has eroded. The straps are not as tough as the balls. And there's a whole batch of them out here. You see them over here? Now, so we know that the substrate has eroded because of some chemical activity made it easily eroded. And you can see it just sort of washed away. Now, so now we have the strap running up here, and it's still structurally, I wouldn't be walking on it if I was that guy. Now, there was another one right here. You see that? There's another stalk right here. They always have a center to them. And that stalk was right here, it ran down, and it probably ran down to either this one right here, I think probably to this one. Because there was a ball here too. You see it? But there was another one over here. They're all over the place. When you get into one of these mats of tendon, there's just thousands of them. I mean, literally thousands and thousands of them. And guess what they used these mats for? Take a guess. Think about it. Now, before we go any further, I just want to make something perfectly clear. I have more research on this than anybody in the entire world, and my stuff is DNA certified and CAT scanned, and I have specimens coming out of my ears. I have people all around the world working with me. And in 2014, I was so frustrated because I had already had all this stuff done, and I contacted literally every college and university and NASA and everybody. And finally, I saw David Attenborough had talked about something. I thought he was talking about mud fossils. And I said, wow, finally I found somebody that knew something about mud fossils. He wrote back, I have no idea what you're talking about. So this goes back a long ways. That's why I have all this stuff. And this is just like a 1% of the details that I have to support my theories. And I mean, I have theories everywhere now. And I'm glad that nobody knew anything about this, because otherwise I would have probably stopped. But when I realized nobody knew about anything, literally anything, nothing about our history, nothing about geology, nothing about physics, nothing about Mars and what's on Mars, what they're seeing with the Mars crab, the Mars Morse code, the Mars blueberries, which are nothing more than these right here. Where is it? I got this stuff everywhere. I got so much stuff I lose track of it. But I do have the Mars blueberries are exactly the same as the Moki marbles. There's no difference whatsoever. Mars is no difference than Earth. And it was hit by Venus, which destroyed Mars. And I have evidence to support every word I'm saying. I showed you this right here. All right? What do you think these little things, if they were going to use this, if it was moist, which these were gigantic creatures. I mean, so big you can't even possibly imagine. They cut slabs of these when they were still wet and just broke these tabs off here. And they used these slabs to make these walls in Peru and places like that. That's what these bumps are. Just took them, snapped them off, and used these little slabs. And they were wet when they did it. When they put them up in place, they didn't even have to use any mortar, nothing. They just popped them right up here. They fit perfect because they were moist. And they had machines here doing that. Don't tell me they didn't have machines, because I can show you the machine tracks that were here. Explain that to me. This is in Fuerte de Sempiata, Bolivia. They were cutting slabs out of here using some kind of a big machine. The tracks come out to here. These are like tank treads. It was made to do this job. But although it didn't come in, it doesn't look like. It looks like it came out of the sky. I have other shots of this. But it was obviously moist when they put it in here because it sunk. And then they were cutting off the side. And I have other ones. And this is, what they're cutting is a tendon over here. This is the abrupt transition where it transitions into muscle, more or less. But mostly they're cutting tendon. And the tendon they use to make the walls. And this, I believe it or not, I think this is a test wall. I'm not kidding you. You see this? This one here, they scraped everything down, somehow got it flat. That's probably a lot of work. Because they're down to the substrate below here, it appears to me. Now here, they just snapped them off. And if you look closely, look at that. Let me see if I can dig right in there. You see that? They all have a stalk in the middle. I showed you the one that the stalk was empty. That one, there's still a little bit of bloody stalk in there. Now, why would they make this wall? Think about this. I said, well, who the hell would do this? Why would they do this? These are the same as this. These little squares, that's natural. They cut down past this into this. And here they cut down everything. Here, I don't know what they did. And here they, I don't know. But there's no reason for this. The only reason for this is to test out and see what happens when this weathers and this weathers and that weathers. And for me, that's how I am going to interpret that. They had some serious craftsmen. And they were, as far as I'm concerned, they must have taken the tendons and impressed like some form into it that was exactly this width and had some pattern. And then they had other ones that were patterned against it. And I probably did a lot of these, or did just this one particular one for some reason. I don't know. But it looks to me like they patterned them and were blocking them like that to make something for the king or something like that. All right. You have to understand biology and anatomy to understand what I'm about to show you. This is the way bodies, muscles attach to tendon. All right, you see this right here? Now, I am going to show you where they are actually cutting the tendon and actually using the muscle as well. And I am actually going to show you a place where they used and actually cut into the bone by accident. And the bone is eroding now. So don't forget, this is the way, well, if you have to come back and look at it, come back and look at it after I show you what I'm going to show you. Because white stuff is like mineralized, and then you get into the red and it's just basically muscle. It's a different muscle tissue. All right, you got to pay really close attention and think of, once you become understanding of the human body and abrupt transitions between tendon, and then you have this extremely mineralized abrupt transition like glue, and then you get into muscle, where you got a lot of red. The red services the muscle. This, I believe, is the tendon that approaches the abrupt transition, and then the muscle is coming here. And they put a machine in here that scooped out the chunks of muscle. Because they did build with it maybe not really muscle. Because there's a whole batch of layers. Hold on one second. Maybe I can show you that. All right, once again, you got to really get into the details. This is what happens. This is what you look like if you get down below the fat and the skin and so forth. This is the structure. all right, from the front, from the side. Now, what happens after that? Remove some of that stuff, and what's below that? You got more substrate, and you got more tendons, you got more muscles going in different directions. So we're peeling back stuff. You see how all this stuff is peeling back? And then you get way down into the cavity, and deep into the cavity, and you have all this other stuff. So they were working with creatures that the thickness of these layers were, 20, 30 feet, 50 feet, maybe 100 feet. Who knows? So what they were doing was, when they pulled up on these machines, I don't know what they were digging out of here, which layer of tissue, but it was strong enough that it could make these walls and did not rot, except I did find some that did. But remember this mineralized transition zone between here and here. And they plopped it right in that transition zone. They knew where to put this machine. And this looks like it locked it into the gooiness of what they were. And to me, it looks like they dropped it right down here. Because these tank treads are like, I don't know. You make it of it what you will. But I'm telling you, I'm going to show you a muscle that I have. Has the abrupt transition, which is the glue. And then there was a bone for mine. And then it went out to the muscle. Here, well, there was actually a tendon and then the bone. All right, you see this here? This is muscle. That's a tendon, and this is a bone. And this is a different shot of it without the bone showing. But this is the tendon that attaches to the bone. You see, it's just brown. There's no blood in it to speak of. Then you get into the red fibrous. This is where it transitions from the muscle, from the bone, and then there's the glue, then there's the tendon, then there's the muscle. And there's all kinds of layers in your body. So I don't know what they were digging, and they were digging different stuff in different places. But this is the same little straps are broken off, and this is tendon. That's the aponeurosis tendon. And the reason you're seeing all that mossy looking stuff is because it grows. The lichen, basically, lichen grows on different layers of tissue that are primarily tendon and have the fluids that tendons have, and mostly it's due to vein blood and not the plasma. What am I thinking? The lymph. Basically, that's because these are all membranes. These are all layers of membranes that have to move and do all this stuff. I wrote a paper on this in 2015. It's a fluid-filled highway. It's fluid-filled highway. All of that stuff is where there's all kinds of fluids moving all the time to protect you. There's membranes to protect you from invasion. This is one of the top layers of protective invasion. And anyway, that's what causes the colors are from different types of lichen. Mostly it's white. This just happens to be orange. Now, hold on a second. Well, I don't know. I showed you this, I think. It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. It holds up very well. And basically because there's no fracture zones, because there's so much intricacy, it's basically very earthquake strong. All right, there's just a lot of, it's almost like a mat that can move versus crack and fall apart like a squared off structure. Those are the things that are weakest. Now, if you haven't been with me for a while, this it's mind altering. That's all I can tell you. You see the same sort of lichen is attached to membrane-ish areas. This is an Achilles tendon. That's an Achilles tendon. And they're chopping all the chunks out of here, and then they're bringing them down here to make these walls. Now, I don't know why they made those walls. I would say there must have been something defensive. I don't see any reason to make those walls other than maybe they were guarding from another flood or something. You know, because at this time, the Earth was one big gigantic ocean. All these bodies of these creatures, which are gigantic. You see this here? Remember I showed you those tendon balls? Those are all tendon balls. And they're coming out of this wall. This is Hunstanton's Beach, Hunstanton Cliffs. And that is mucosa, skin, basically. That is skin. This is the flesh underneath. And all of those balls are in the interstitium. I discovered this layer of interstitium, which is the fluid-filled highway, years ago. I made a paper about it in 2015 called Fascia-Facilitated Fossilization. And the fascia is where all of that fluid-filled highway is. It's really attached to the fascia. They knew about the fascia. They just didn't know about the fluid-filled highway. They thought it was a flat mat. And I just, like I say, I knew it wasn't. And I studied it. And in 2018, they said, yes, it's a new organ, actually. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff that's going to get a little grisly. But like I said, we have to understand the whole Earth, literally, as far as I'm concerned, is a corpse. You see that? Look at the size of that thing. You see that? That's a tendon anthesis, like I told you. There's the strap. This is a ponerosus tendon. And this was made to be pulled in and out like this. And this is its partner right next to it. And they had the balls all over the place. It was just a big mat of tendon from a gigantic, gigantic, gigantic creature. This guy right here is approximately the size of a macrophage, a bacteria. He could be running around here trying to kill bugs invading this thing. And that's what the bacteria do, macrophages. All right, and in us, that thing is so microscopic, you need an electron microscope to see these things. And the only reason you're seeing that is because I think I maybe told you, this is sports injuries is where I go to find out, you know, the anatomy. That thing was anchored there. Now it's pulled out. Now, let me show you another sports injury that's really very, very cool. You see that right there? This is a rope tendon. Now, like I said, it's going to get grisly in a second here. This is a rope tendon. It attaches to meat or to bones or whatever attaches to the bone. I mean, that rope. Now, I have a stone here that literally is a block of meat. It was at one time. This is the latch. And again, they don't know this in anatomy. They think that's just part of the fascia and it just sort of weaves into the next thing. It's not. This is a separate little device all by itself. And that I can prove as well. And it's this device right here. Totally different chemistry than the fascia. Totally different. It looks the same, but not the same. All right, so this is something that's unknown at the moment. I have named it the spur lock. It locks body parts together. There's one on every organ. There's one on every shoulder and muscle joint. And like I said, it's going to get grisly, but I'm going to show you this. And I'm going to show you the ponerosus tendon, well, something like it, in meat. All right, get ready. It's going to be grisly. All right, look very carefully. This is a tendon, and it's more or less a rope style tendon. And this right here, these are all the different fibers. You see all those fibers? Now they come down and they anchor somewhere. And then they come out and then they meet up with muscle. Now, you see they meet up with the muscle and then the muscle continues on. There's another little piece of this rope style tendon coming down here to anchor somewhere else. You see how it anchors in? This is, you got to do a lot of looking and understanding. Now, that's the rope style stuff. Well, what is the ponerosa style? Right there. That's the coating. Now, you see it like fat and the membrane between here and your vital tissue. And inside all of this vital tissue, there's these tiny, 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 tiny little balls. They're everywhere. Now this is probably an artery. I'm not sure, or a bone or something. But you see the different colors of meat? It indicates something's different going on, whether there was blood gushing through there, I don't know. There's a lot of work to do to understand this, but this is basically fascia. And that's that aponeurosis tendon, which they call fascia. And when you get a thick one, like up here, this, I believe, is what they were using to make the walls and so forth. Because the guy would have died laying flat, and pretty flat. Everything I have is flat as a pancake on one side. You know, this is just too outrageous, but it looks pretty real to me. I think they anchored their machine right in here. They were digging out the tendon down here, and the muscle ran out this way, or the other way around. But that little white spot, like here, look. Where is it? I got so much stuff open here. Hold on a second, let me find it. You know, the more I look at it, the more I think they were mining the red meat. Because that's nothing more than putty. It's just exactly identical to putty. It's exactly identical to putty. You'd mix in red putty, and you'd put it in and make bricks out of it and so forth. And they anchored themselves into the tendon, where it's the abrupt area, and then they were doing this. Now, what would they use that for? Let me show you. You know, here's what I think they use the meat stuff for. You see this wall? That's just, it's made of meat. You see that right there? This looks like they caught a piece of the bone or something in with the meat. This is the piece right here. This is just exploded. And you can see the red blood and everything. And you see that coming around there? I'm not sure what's going on, but it obviously is biological, and it's eroding. Whether this is tendon and then they got into the meat, or whether this is the meat and they got into the bone, je ne sais pas, I do not know. But all this thing's a mess. Look at this one up here. This is the side of town they didn't care about. They throw any garbage down there, who cares? Look at them. They're all rotting away. And the other ones are fabulously flawless, where they use the good quality stuff. You see all these little dimples and holes in there? This is body tissue. This is not tendon, mostly. There might be a little tendon here and there. There seems to be some up here. But down here, I don't see any. They ended up using all the meat. Now you see this one here? This is not meat whatsoever. This is an Achilles tendon. And that is just nothing but tough tendon. So they had to cut it when it was wet, and you can see it's just so uniformly cut. They must have had some machine doing this. And they built these walls down in the back here with these things, and that's what they did. I don't know why. This is the Achilles tendon again. These are steps they're cutting off of here, building these huge, big, monumental walls back here. At a certain point, I'm not sure. Boy, it's hard to understand why they're doing that. Is that to protect them from rising waters? Or is it to protect them from invasion? Or there's no explanation for that other than, to my mind, those two things, one or the other. And don't forget, the things I'm showing you are from these tendons. Those tendons are laying flat like that, rolling down the hill, and they have all these stripes and strips coming down from them. And there's no real blockiness. So they're Achilles tendons. As far as I can determine, from all the research I've done, tendons are extremely blocky, except for the Achilles tendon, which it doesn't have to move around and bend and do all that kind of twisting. It's just a real tight rubber band, and I believe those tendons are not separated. That whole band is one piece, and I can show that where they cut into it here. You see this? There's no cuts here. There's no blocks here. I mean, they've taken blocks out of here, but there's no blocks in the actual stone. I don't see any. They are cutting these little blocks out of here, but the actual stone before they cut it, well, the tendon before they cut it, there is no separations. So I think this is an Achilles tendon. I think the Achilles tendon is basically the only tendon that doesn't have blockiness to it. They show tendons having all these little block, and they do. And they don't really pull apart. They're tight. They can just barely move, but they have to do this and do that and do all these different things. All these things are tendons in your arms and your shoulders, and everywhere your muscles attach, they have to spin, they have to twist, except for the Achilles tendon. See, this is what the tendon should be used for. Amusement. These are tendons. The kids down in Peru or Bolivia or somewhere, they're sliding down them. It looks like they've been doing it for a bazillion years. Now, again, this is a tendon. This was more a little wrinklier than the other ones I showed you, which were so perfect. So probably they didn't bother using these. But they work nicely for a slide. And again, there's no blocks into this. But so I think that's an Achilles tendon as well. Okay, my friends, I have literally hundreds and hundreds of pictures of different anomalies on Earth. Nobody can explain except when you understand mud fossils. Now, don't forget, I showed you Huntington Beach. Look at this. These are literally the little tiny tendon balls that are you need an electron microscope to see them in us. They're eroding out of the flesh, which is coated by the skin. All right, now, I have a friend, Neil Lothrigan. He's out there, and he sent me some pictures right up close. This is the fluid-filled highway right here between the flesh, the skin, basically, and underneath. This is like a membrane. Now, I believe it's the fluid-filled highway. I am not certain of that. Here's another one he sent me right here. And you see how blocky that is? And this is blocky. There's a lot to discover about this, but I believe this is where the fluids go between your skin, which is, your skin just erodes away, and it doesn't mean much to your body. It's a protection. It's like a rubber glove. But it erodes away. You're eroding skin like you wouldn't believe. And it's not important. However, if it starts to get invaded and it gets through that layer, which is the fluid-filled highway, this is your protection. All your enzymes and bacteria and all that stuff flow through. It's the whole entire body, and they admitted this in 2018. It's a new organ. It's a fluid-filled highway. Now, I saw this, and I wrote a paper about it. I think I said it about 10 times in 2015, that it was a fluid-filled fabric highway. It coats the entire body, and it comes together as one giant system. You see, it's basically this right in this area somewhere. It could be the whole thing here. I don't know. But I know that there's a fluid-filled section right below the skin, which is the protective barrier. That's where you get inflamed and pus grows and everything, because it's killing things that are trying to invade you. That's what it's all about. This is that layer. Okay, now I have shown you things that are so enormous, the average human mind just literally cannot deal with it. This is what I have found. And the more educated you are, the less capable you are of dealing with reality. That's just what I have discovered in 15 years of doing this. Don't forget now, I contacted David Attenborough out of desperation in 2014. Now, this is after years of having all the evidence, so he wouldn't do anything. He didn't understand. And I'm sure it was my fault. I didn't present it correctly. But he didn't understand, and nobody understood, and nobody would even give me the time of day. And they destroyed me because of the things I was saying about giant and about the earth literally being made of giants, which is what they said in the ancient past. Dragons, giants, it all appears to be true. Now, this should shock the hell out of anybody. But it's true. This is one of these crystal caves. These crystals are what is the internal structure of some of the tendon anthesis. And can I demonstrate that anatomically? Yes. Because here's what they grow. They grow those crystals inside. Now, normally there's going to be some more matrix in there. It's not going to be an empty void around here. But once everything eroded out of the earth and all the moisture and all that stuff flowed through there, it left these crystals. And those crystals form because of a process of silification. The silicon in the waters was dense. And this is what these things are made out of. Extremely, well, let me show you something. Silicus invaded just about everything. This is a heart. That's literally a heart. That's the aorta right there. There's another area where there was some blood, and it's just a taste of blood remain. There's so many silicates. That's the ventricle wall, and that's the heart. There were so many silicates in the water that they completely invaded things that were in certain areas where there was just a flow of continuous water, and which was hot. First of all, because we almost got hit by Venus, and the heat boiled the oceans, and that was written. Some of the first words in the Colburn Bible said the oceans boiled. The oceans boiled when the destroyer came past, and it did. And so they continuously flowing with water through here with all these extreme amounts of silicates, and it washed out all of the residents basically, and it started to take up and started to bind and grow these big gigantic crystals. And here it just completely took over and replaced everything that's in here. And they will replace cavities. You see that? That's a lung. Any doctor would know that's a lung. I don't know what it's from. Could be a human, could be an animal, I don't know. But this was where the plumbing comes in the back. And you see now it's all filled with quartz. You know, when they say there's veins of quartz, no, there's veins, and the quartz has filled in when the blood left the veins. Just like this fluid matrix in here, because there was probably some kind of a gooey matrix left and was invaded by this. And as the water's washed out, it just left the crystals. That's a guy walking in here. So this is from a tendon ball. The creatures, they were just staggeringly large, absolutely beyond the average human mind can take it. I'm sorry, that's just a fact, and we have to deal with it. And it's all over the earth. Here's a tendon right here. This is tendons, connective tissue swirling down, and here's the guy's 4x4. And our whole earth is nothing but biology. Nothing but biology. And there's nothing but biology that exists anywhere that I can find. So getting back to David Attenborough and all these people that he's talking about, these Trovants and walls and the balls that are in the walls and they're eroding. Wow. Okay, my friends, I hope you saw what I presented. It's pretty solid evidence to support my side of the claims. These, again, that was from a tendon anthesis that was stuck inside one of these ligaments. Same thing here. They can't explain these. And David Attenborough, a nice guy, and again, this is not meant to be nasty whatsoever, but he's lived his entire life looking for answers to these things. I want to deal with David Attenborough. He's not going to last forever, and I am not either. So, and I'm getting up there too. So, what I would love to do is correspond with Sir David, or at least have somebody investigate the things that I'm showing. All of this, and this just is the start of it. Next one I'm going to do is on the stone balls, because the stone balls are what is attached to all these tendons. But I'm going to show you all the different types. Like, you see this one here? That's one of these stone balls. Nobody can account for that. They say, oh, that's a concretion. No, it's not. That was a tendon antithesis. And this breaks off at the top because that's where the anchor was. And they come in all different styles. I mean, you wouldn't believe the different styles. Absolutely amazing, some of them. But primarily, this is how they're built. You have that stone ball, which has, normally they have a little wrinkly edge to them, because that's what locks them into the tissues. They lock into these little dimples. And when I show you where these dimples are in that next video, you are going to freak out. Because I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to show you all the dimples. And I'm going to show you this, and this gets removed, because that's the weak spot. That's the attachment spot, the abrupt transition. So what would you see if that broke off? Well, you would see this or something close to that, but it would have a ring of removed area, and this would be the rest of it. And you will see that, and when you do see it, it will freak you out. Way out. Way out. So, Sir David, I would love to engage, my good friend. Your endeavor to find reality is inspiring, but you have to be able to look at reality and understand that it could be much different than what the reality you have been presented with. Now, these Trovants do not grow. They erode. The ones in China, the balls that are in the walls, they call them eggs. They do not grow eggs. The wall erodes back and the balls come forward. If I could just have somebody in geology, some big shot, and David Attenborough, you don't get much bigger than a big shot than that, to address me so that we can discuss what we're talking about here. This is gigantic creatures, and they're not just one here and one there. They are everywhere. And these are the tendons. And these are the little tiny, tiny tendon fibers that come down to here, and they end up attaching to all those tiny, tiny, tiny little balls that are anchored to every single fiber. This is so simplified, it's unbelievable. But this is the emphasis that Sir David was showing. And it's just eroding away around it. That's that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would love to talk to somebody about it. All right, I love you all. And Sir David, I would love to talk, my friend. Okay, just to finish it up, no disrespect whatsoever. Nobody has expected this. But I still am being dismissed by everybody. When they talk about these Trovants, they grow, they move, they reproduce. He's allowing this to be put on his page here. And they say, oh, they absorb minerals and so forth. No, things erode away and they just get bigger and bigger. They show bigger and bigger. Now, they have for more details. Maybe we should check that out. Okay, yeah, I did come up here. Hassan Jazm. Romanian mysterious stones grow and move on their own. And he's showing all these different stone-like looking structures. And there is a ton of different ones. When I show you the ones I have literally probably 100 different shots of much better than this. These are fine. You see all these little bumpy things? That's how they invest into the body. Now, I believe that's an organ or something. But you're going to have all kinds of different looks to things. And he's just showing some oddities, basically. And she's pretending that is a penis, apparently. And there were giant penises. As a matter of fact, I'll show you that, and I'm going to wrap it up there. But I'm telling you, the things were gigantic on the earth. Every single bit of the earth was covered with creatures, first of all. And the earth itself, I believe, was literally, as they said, made from a creature, or the body of a creature, or part of a creature, or is a creature. This is where it starts to get foggy for me, because there's a lot of stories. But they all have giants and dragons, and the earth literally being, well, even Jesus said the earth is a corpse in the Nag Hammadi text. Here it is right here. Jesus said, whoever has come to understand the world has found only a corpse, and whoever has found a corpse is superior to the world. Now, he also said, which I believe is true, Jesus said, if they say to you, where did you come from? These are his followers. Say to them, we came from the light, which is exactly true. Everything is made of light. Light is atomic vapor. It's the vapor that condenses into matter. It's the place where light came into being on its own accord and established itself and became manifest through their image. Let us make them in our own image. Well, you see the sun and you say, well, that's where light comes into being on its own accord. But it doesn't look like a human being, and it became manifest through their image. Well, maybe there's the sun is like a spaceship and there's people living in there. I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. If they say to you, is it you? We are its children. We are the children of light. We are the elect of the living Father. So is the Son the living Father? If they ask you, what is the sign of your Father in you? Say to them, it is movement and repose. It's vibration. That's what movement and repose is vibration. All of that stuff is true. All of that stuff is true. And he also says if in a body, a number it's 80, I think. Right here. Jesus said, he who has recognized the world has found the body. And that's all I have found is bodies and the body, understanding the body. But he who has found the body is superior to the world. And it starts off, this is the gospel of Thomas. All right, Thomas was doubting Thomas. He was Jesus' scribe. And he wrote down all the secret sayings. These are the secret sayings, and they were stored in the Nag Hammadi texts. These are Gnostic texts, but they say this was as Jesus walked around saying, write this down, Tommy. Write this one down, Tommy. And he wrote them down. That was the living, and which Judas Thomas wrote down. So he says, whoever finds an interpretation of these sayings will not experience death. You're all going to die. We're going to die. So what does death mean? First of all, you got to decide that. Death means that you have some new existence. Well, I don't think you're going to miss a new existence, but a good existence you could be put into hell. Let's go with that. So he's saying you won't experience death. I'm not exactly sure how to take that. But he also says, let him who seek continue seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will become troubled. Yes, extremely troubled. When he becomes troubled, he will be astonished, and he will rule over the all. And he goes on to say, what's in your, recognize what is in your sight. and that which is hidden from you will become plain to you, yes, to you. For there is nothing hidden which will not become manifest. That's why I feel comfortable making the statements I'm making, because they're disturbing. Now let me explain to you my experience with this whole thing. Okay, my friends, let's just have a little discussion about how I became involved in this and why I feel comfortable speaking. Because literally, I was told to do this. And you know, Roger, what do you mean by that? Told to do that? Who told you? Well, I'm not sure. But I can tell you this. I woke up one morning, I said to my wife, I feel like there's something in the woods calling my name. So I don't know, I had no idea what to think. I just felt like I wanted to go in the woods and maybe find an arrowhead or something like that. So I went out and I looked and I found giant human body parts. And to me, there was no question. They were anatomically flawlessly perfect. So I started searching on giants and, you know, going back into the ancient texts and myths and so forth. And during that search, something popped up. Now, whether it came from a website or whether it came from just out of the blue, I don't know. But it said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test, which blew me away. And I tried to discover where that emanated from. I couldn't find out where that message came from. But it said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test. And I said, wow, that's amazing. So I started asking people, what do you see when I show you this? And they told me, you're a nutcase, you're crazy, you're insane. And I was put in an insane box. Now, if they could have put me in an insane asylum, they probably would have. I just retreated from everything, and I just said, well, because they know, literally nobody passed the test. I mean, nobody for years. And I ended up in desperation, going to anybody. Everybody. NASA, Yale, Harvard, every single one of them. And no response whatsoever. Now, here's why I say that could have just been accidental. Just something happened, no big deal. However, this did happen, which was an actual speaking to me. Now, first of all, look at this book right here. A friend of mine writes these books, and I have nothing to do with the books. He writes them based on papers that I wrote that just got basically thrown away. Nobody paid any attention to them except Paul. And he asked, can I write these books? And I said, yeah, write the books, put it out there. So not every word in here is mine. And a lot of it doesn't really, you know, it's based on my paper. He's got my name on there, Roger Spur, 11/10/2015 is when I wrote about Atlantis being the eye of the Sahara and the draining of the Sahara. Now, I had been looking at this for a couple of years. So this is 2015 now. I was looking at this for, 2 years or so on a draining of the Sahara. Well, all I ever did was look at the eye of the Sahara, and I'm equating it to Atlantis. Now, I'm going to show you what did happen, because I am looking at, I can't remember whether I was actually looking at Atlantis at that instant, but I had been really focusing in on it. And this was 2015 when I wrote this paper. Shortly before that, maybe it was like 2016 that I saw typhon. But I never noticed typhon or the fish until I heard from behind me. I'm pointing at my screen, watching my screen. I have a TV behind me, and there's something about a car commercial going on, which I wasn't paying any attention. But I hear from behind me. Well, first of all, here's what happened. I swear to God, this is a fact. After nobody would pay attention to the test, And I couldn't, I mean, literally my family, everybody just thought I was a nutcase, and I was really, really assaulted for years. But I decided if I'm supposed to give this test, it's going to get given. So I'm sitting here thinking, what am I going to do? How am I ever going to get these people to pay attention? I can't get anybody to pay attention. And I literally might have even said it verbally. Said, God, you chose the wrong guy. I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I'm almost in tears, literally. And I hear from behind me, look in Morocco. And so I turn around and at the TV, and there's a car commercial. And I'm thinking, look in Morocco, that has nothing to do with the car. And I think this is just too unusual to not look. So I look now, but before we go look in Morocco, remember, 2015, the Eye of the Sahara. I had been looking at this a couple of years before I wrote the paper. And by that time I decided, yes, that is the Eye of the Sahara, is Atlantis. But never did I see what I just am going to show you now until I heard, look in Morocco. And that was words coming to my ears out of, as far as I know, nowhere. Because it didn't come out of that car commercial, I don't think. All right, let's look in Morocco. All right, don't forget now, 2015, I'm studying the Eye of the Sahara for probably 2 years by that time. And I'm seeing these kind of things thinking, boy, they look like channels coming in, and all these little things could be coming up to boat slips, because this is one of the rings. These could literally be buildings or something. I'm looking at this thinking, wow, this could very well be, because you back out of here, and that's one of the rings of the Eye of the Sahara, which to me is Atlantis. Now, so I've been really, really digging in there. And then all of a sudden I hear, look in Morocco. Well, this is right below Morocco. Right up here is Morocco. All up in this area somewhere. No. So I look and all of a sudden I see, holy shit, there's a fish there. There's a fish. I started looking at it, and it appears that's the eye. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but just disregard that for now. Let's say that's his eye. It comes up here, that's the fin. It comes back here, that's the tail. And these are like fins. And this is the major fin at the top. And then above that, I see the dragon. There's the dragon's head right there. There's this red flaring eye. And this whole thing here, the Draco Valley, the Dragon Valley, is filled with dragon scales protecting his dragon throat, where he used to eat giant things through, apparently. Because he pooped, so he must have been eaten, because he pooped. He's got a pooper. And it comes all the way down here. These are all dragon scales. All this is just runoff of body fluids after he died. These are the dragon scales. This is his throat. All the way down until he got his throat cut right there. That is a gash. And all of this is red and black blood. That's artery and vein blood. And the artery blood makes things grow extremely green, as I have said a million times. Now, this is just runoff. All right, they put a little dam here, it looks like. But anyway, this dragon runs all the way across North Africa, through Morocco and so forth. This is his legs right here. There's his thighs. All right, and his poop's right here. Right from there, that's where they're living, because it's very fertile. Right there, right out of there, boom. And then the urinary is attached to it. All right, here's the urinary flow right here, which comes down here. And this is the poop. And the two mix together into what's called a cloaca. Reptiles, birds, and dragons have cloacas. He runs from here to here. These are all the tail feathers. And he had feathers for a tail. But he also had dragon scales leading out to the back end. These are dragon scales. Now, they're made of different types of metals, it looks like, because these are the different colors of metals. And all that, well, that's the blood, but these are different. You see the different colors? You see all that? Look at those scales. This thing was armored plated to the teeth. Look at that. And this happens to be a swale here. All right, so it comes down like this, and all the blood has drained down in here, and it's running out. Basically, that's what's going on. Anyway, he's 1,200 miles long, from here to here, and that's exactly what was written in Apollodorus. This is Typhon, and he was attacking the gods when he was killed, and the gods turned themselves into animals, like fish, to try to get away, and this one got attacked. Because this is dragon spit, and it is nasty as nasty can be. So think about this logically. I hear, look in Morocco, after, it got to be a couple of years looking at this, because I wrote this in 2015, and by that time I don't think I knew about the dragon. I don't think so. And there he is. And then Apollodorus fell onto me. It said that Typhon was a dragon, and his throat was cut, which it is. It's cut right there. And on the ancient maps, it shows a dragon laying all the way across North Africa with his throat cut right there, attacking a fish. You see this? This is the scales of the fish. They're this way. So he was headed that way. His head was going that way. I believe that's his eyeball. Basically, the pupil of his eye is basically right in there somewhere. And it's, you know, it's clouded up pretty much, but I believe this area here was his eyeball. And these are the scales. He would have heading that way, trying to get out of town. And it is what it is. And this was just, it fell on me. I heard, look in Morocco. I looked, and there it was. Now, if that's not some kind of divine intervention, I don't know what is. It's just too much. And I still can't, and this is 2015 now, and I still can't get anybody paying attention to it. And I've been given the test every single day, every single day. And I have a few thousand people that have understood and have paid attention and are willing to pay attention, and that's about it. So I don't know where God's going to get 144,000 people out of humanity. As far as I'm concerned, very, 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 very few will even take the test. And out of that, there's very few that can even open their minds enough to realize what's right in front of their face. It's even like Quetzalcoatl. There's nothing here that wasn't written in the past that's wrong. There's Quetzalcoatl right there. Here's his head. There's his feathers, his headdress, right up here. Here's his throat, goes right straight back, right here. Runs right around and all the way up the East Coast. He's gigantically gigantic. And these are the feathers in his headdress, and that's why it's all green here. Feathers make things grow green. And these are feathers. You see that? These are feathers. See? I know feathers. These are feathers. And they come up here until, and at a certain point they stop, right about here. But that's his headdress. Now, if this needs to be at least thought about, if this doesn't do something to your mind, I don't know where your mind is. If you can just walk away from this and just, I don't know what you do, go on a cruise or something and look at things and not understand anything you see. I don't know. I'm telling you right now, I never thought I would run into this denial of reality. Total denial of reality. 100% denial of reality. Millions of years in one picture. No, that is a tendon right there. That's tendon. This thing died, fell over. There's the body of it. That's a blink of an eye. And everything else is too. Everything I have was on the surface of the earth. All this stuff is on the surface. It's not buried. My stuff is DNA tested and CAT scan and everything else. I have giant creatures. This is a hair follicle from some kind of giant. I don't know what kind. There's what a muscle attaches right there. The pili erector muscle. This is a sebaceous gland on this side. There's the hair. There's the root ball coming down, and there's the vein and artery at the bottom. I have so much information on this that that's the problem. Answers are not well received. Mystery. The first thing you get when you take courses on, I'm not kidding you, I took a course, I can't remember what it was. I take them all the time on Coursera. You could take them, they're free. And the first lesson was how to apply for a grant. I'm not kidding you. How to get funding, how to apply for a grant. I said, I'm here to learn, I forget what it was. But, and that's what it's all about, how to get money. And the best way is every single paper, basically, I have read, ends up by saying, more research is required. Funded by, and basically, it's almost always government funded. They're using our money to look for things that they're never going to find because they can't accept the answers if they did find them. Nobody can be this incompetent for this many years to deny what I have been showing to all the top universities, all of them, 100% right across the board. I don't care, and even not the top ones, all of them. Anytime I see any of them making a comment and a guy's name, bloop, I go right to him. Bloop. It's just like it never happened. So this is what we're dealing with, and until we get out of this academic fraud, basically, and they're there to just absorb money. Basically, that's all I can see right now. They're not interested in addressing any kind of evidence. You see Neil Tyson Degrassi, or Neil deGrasse Tyson, saying, you know, oh, we're here to peer review, we look at everything, we inspect everything with a fine tooth comb. No, not at all. All right, I'm just going to leave it at this. This is why they don't want to discuss any of the stuff I'm talking about, because evolution is completely nonsensical. There was some form of a creation. Things evolve and change, absolutely, no question about that. But evolution didn't start from a bunch of dust and turn into slime, and the slime turned into monkeys, and we turned into humans. No, absolutely not. In my mind, no. When you look into the genomics and the programming, it is literally programming, and I know this because I've studied this deeply, and I went to Johns Hopkins for genomics and studied the human genome and how the genes work and how they methylate and how they express and how they require enzymes. All right? You can't make something work fast without an enzyme. It just doesn't happen. If you don't have the enzymes, you're not going to get the biology in your body to work. And enzymes are only created by bacteria. That's why you're seeing everything about probiotics now, because if you don't have the bacteria in your body, you don't get the enzymes. You don't get the enzymes, you don't get the chemistry. You don't get the chemistry, you can't fight off invaders, you can't make proteins for building blocks, your bones get weak, all kinds of things happen. You have to have the enzymes. That means you have to have the bacteria. And they go through this fluid-filled highway. Another thing totally not understood until 2018. And it's still not understood because in the medical industry, virtually nothing moves. They are so cautious that they don't want to speak about anything that hasn't been peer-reviewed for 20 years. I mean, it's a system of stagnation at this point. And every single thing I read, more research. We need more research. Funded by. That's the problem. All right? I love you all. We need to change the dynamic here. All right? Take care. Thank you.